Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You're back live with Fish and Sister Nicole, and we have a special guest tonight, and that is Zen Garcia, who's going to be joining us. Who's actually he is here now, and I'm going to bring him live because I want to talk about a few things before we let him get started and on a roll. Zen, are you there?
I am. How are y'all doing this evening?
Oh, I'm doing great. And you?
Excellent. It's been a very productive day. It's beautiful outside. Spring is my favorite season, and so I'm having an awesome day.
Good, good. Nicole, are you there?
I am.
You
Can you
are.
hear me?
I can hear you. Is your Skype working fine?
Yeah, finally. It only took like 5 shows.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just get started because I think that I think the Holy Spirit's here. The Holy Spirit's always here. We always have great shows. And last week we were supposed to have Zen on, but I had to cancel due to a work conflict. But in the meantime of me canceling, I felt God had shown me some things that Zen is going to bring to the table tonight, and I'm still receiving this, and it has to do with the whole plain earth and the whole dome and the firmament. And the reason why I believe that these God is showing me these things is for two reasons. One, I was at work and I seen where a teacher where I worked at had wrote a book, and the book says from heaven above, from fact or from fiction to fact. And that made me think, okay, well, heaven above, and I think that I've heard Zen mention numerous times that God is basically sitting right there above the firmament looking down at us. So that was kind of a sign that God had shown me. And then another thing was I walked out into a hallway and I seen this big giant banner, and it says, the banner said shape of the world, and it wasn't a globe. It was actually the shape of the world according to the map on what is that, the UN NATO's map. It's the flat earth or the plain earth map. And I thought to myself, okay, is this another thing that God is trying to show me? And then two things happened this past week that got me really, really thinking, and it has to do with something that I seen on the internet by, I think it was D13, a guy I think that Zen had on his show before, but Kathy Dunson had actually posted a video of his, and it talked about the dome earth, and it talked about chemtrails, I believe, and aluminum and the chemtrails and things like that. But I went on two field trips with my school, and we went to Cleveland Science Center, and we went to the Pittsburgh Science Center, and both places we seen IMAX. We seen IMAX movies. And if you ever been to an IMAX movies, they're in a dome, and you sit back and you look up, and it's not really 3D. It's basically an IMAX, and it's shaped around you. Well, what happened was the lady goes, "Well, the IMAX movie theater is actually made of aluminum." And it got me thinking, and then I did a little bit more research, and it's like those people out there that are putting those things on there about the chemtrails with the aluminum in them, and then this whole, I think it might be Project Paperclip. I don't know what it is. Maybe Zen could give us more on that, and I'm just rambling. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Zen. Are you there?
Yeah, I am, and never take for granted those kind of signs because, in my opinion, the Most High, the Holy Spirit is always speaking to us through all different kinds of mediums. And so what a lot of people think of as coincidence or deja vu, in my opinion, is the language of the Spirit, and that every day all of us are flooded with information and in relationship with God in those kind of different ways, but because they don't recognize the language of God, or that what is also in a series of books called the knock of the Spirit, they don't pay attention to those things, or they think that they're just random. They don't accept those kind of things as actual signs from God to lead you in study or to confirm in some way something that you might be interested in or inquisitive about or seeking more discernment upon. And so, like, the things that you had mentioned at the very beginning with walking out and seeing that, and then also your teacher's book, that those kind of things are, the basically God kind of giving us hint as to um, that these kind of topics are relevant and important, and that they should be further looked into and introspected upon.
Right, right. I mean, I totally agree with you 100% because I don't believe in coincidence. I believe that God speaks through
Right.
all shapes and forms and things in the world. And so I went to this the first one I went to was the Omniomax, I think it was in Cleveland, Ohio, and it basically was called A Beautiful Planet, the movie that we watched, and it showed the International Space Station and showed all this stuff. But for me, the what really got me, I'm sitting back and I got like 200 students around and they're just like gazing at it and all amazed. But I'm more like analyzing it because I'm like wigging out basically. I'm like, okay, this could totally happen if they're trying to make the firmament more like an Omnimax movie theater or IMAX movie theater for people whenever the Great Deception comes. It totally clicked for me. I was just like blown away by it. But what I noticed the most was is if they're supposed to be on the International Space Station or wherever they're supposed to be, there was never a full view of the Earth. Every view was kind of like just pulled back just far enough where you can see a small curvature, but nothing major. So I was like, well, why can't they pan back so we can see the whole Earth? And they never once did that. It was just kind of strange to me, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And those are things that, because they don't do that, and because there's not, in this day and age of high technology and supposedly 20,000 satellites all in orbit around the Earth at every distance and every angle and every uh, covering every aspect inside of the Earth. Why is there not many different live streams and live feeds available, which show us in the Earth and its all of its magnificence and all of its glory? We should be able to go to a website and click to get a live feed of that particular part where we actually live at, and we should be able to see in stream this every second of every day. I mean, why not? I mean, the earth is the most incredible aspect of our creation. It's the part that is most, it's our home, and it's the place of residence for all of the creatures and all the beauty, all the magnificence that we see surrounding us. Why not display it? And think of how many views, how much interest that would garner from people all over these plane of the earth, and so everybody would be tuning into it. It would be an educational tool, rather than going and looking at a globe. These different teachers utilizing a globe in the classroom, they would just simply go to that particular website and pull up, well, this is where we are, and look at the earth, and watching it in live stream, seeing the movements of the clouds, and the the way that night and day unfold in different portions of it. Um, all of that. I mean, that would be such an incredible educational tool. But the reason it doesn't exist is because they can't provide it. They can't pan out and show it in all of its glory with all of this supposed curvature, because it does not exist in that model, shape, and form.
Right. It does not exist, and there was so much evidence whenever I went to those two space station or to the two science centers. It was weird because all of the stuff there for the kids to see, it was all smoke and mirrors. And I'm sitting there when I was a kid. It was been
Right.
years since I've been to these places. When I was a kid, I thought, oh man, all this stuff is so cool. This has been in space. But whenever I actually go there as an adult and I'm able to look at it, I'm like, this glove or this suit that I'm stepping into, they're going to allow me to put this on. To me, honestly, I mean, if there's such a vacuum, this, that, and the other, some Velcro and zippers is not going to be able to withstand the pressure that they're talking about, space pressure. If you
Mhm.
go outside, I don't see that happening from that standpoint. But also with the spaceship and all this stuff that you got to see there and all these instruments. I mean, it was just so much make believe in my opinion. I can't imagine it. There was just 50 million buttons. What happened? You know that they have to push. It's
Mhm.
it's made up. It really is. It really is made up. You people have to go see it for themselves.
Yeah, when
Um,
you become aware of these things, it seems immediately apparent when you go to, these different places, or even like if somebody were to visit the Space Museum and looking at all of these supposed evidence of like the Apollo missions and the photographs that were taken or the film that was taken, all of those things are contrived because even with the way that they say that they were able to accomplish these things and to shoot the film or capture the photos. Um, they showed, even in studying the photography, you see different light sources, which, if they were really on the moon, there would only be one light source, and that's the sun. And there wouldn't be different angles to the shadows, and even the supposed lunar rocks that they brought back and gave to different, like the ambassador of Holland, and giving them to other individuals when they studied what those moon rocks were and tried to look into the composition. It was confirmed that they were petrified wood. And so why the hoax? Why would there be any kind of hoax connected to NASA in any kind of way if all of what they say and all the things that they declare in accomplishment are true? And the fact that there are hoaxes connected to them and in fabricating, like with the supposed spherical shape of the Earth with the Apollo 11 missions, utilizing the window of the lunar module to give it shape and to push it off as a globe. I mean, all of those things, to me, destroy the credibility of NASA and force people to reassess and to reevaluate why they believe in the things that we've been told by them as agency.
right, right. You're absolutely. I think that, I'm trying to just do a little bit of. It's so encompassing. I'm doing a little bit of research at a time because we are brought up, and the kids today are even brought up more so than what we are or we were when we were younger. I mean, all their books are filled with space exploration and all this other brainwashing stuff that they're getting, and I'm seeing it from kindergarten all the way through the high school, and it just amazes me how whenever you get out of the book and you start researching this stuff on your own, none of it makes any sense. And the more I research it, and I'm driving around and I'm looking at these cell towers, and it's starting to really piece together with these whole, and to an Omnimax or IMAX theater, you need lasers. You need lasers all over the place. And I firmly believe that these cell towers are going to be the ones that have these lasers on them in order to project the show that they want to put on at that time, wherever, whatever part of the country or world that you're living in, and you think that something's coming or something like that, whatever it's going to be. I think that it's going to be all made up. It's a matrix. It's a matrix system. That's what it basically is, and it's hard to fathom for the normal person because they're not, or we're so indoctrinated in it. but it truly is, and I can see that great deception being so enormous that even the very elect, if it were possible, would be deceived.
Absolutely, because this is, and I know how difficult it is to wrap your mind around the grandiose, as far as being the biggest, the largest deception ever. I mean, this is humongous. I mean, it's monstrous, colossal, and it that in itself makes it seem implausible. Um, but again, when you really open yourself to the possibilities that we are being deceived and that there is no real evidence, certainly, photographs or videos of the Earth from space, you have to question as to why. Again, in this era of high technology and supposedly all of these moon missions and Apollo missions and space shuttle missions and you know the different space agencies now worldwide, um, over decades. Why is there not photographs, real photographic evidence, not composites, but live, real live photographs or video, which shows again the Earth in its glory? And when you study and look at the photographs that NASA has pushed off as being the supposed evidence of, the shape of the Earth as a spherical globe, then even those photographs are questionable simply because they are not consistent. The shape of even North America in some of the photos, it's like the continent had shrunk or been enlarged in some way in different photographs. And why is it that clouds spell out sex in some of these official NASA photographs? Why is it the people that are really skilled with the use of Photoshop are able to see how they created cloud formations by utilizing the clone tool of Photoshop in order to replicate and to paste on to the earth these cloud formations. I mean, all of those things should not have ever occurred if the earth, if those photographs are authentic, and if the earth is in fact in the shape of a globe. Because if it is in the shape of a globe, they should be able to today provide us with live stream or thousands of photographs from all angles. And the fact that this body of evidence is non existent should force people to consider that there's something not right with what's going on as far as they're affirming that the earth is a ball. And if there's something not right about that, well, then maybe they are indeed hiding something. And if they are indeed hiding something, what is it and why are they doing it? And that all leads to what you were talking about as far as this the blue beam deception and their because the next step of the agenda is to create an alien invasion, the ancient aliens coming down to save humanity, that they are our original creators. That's why we don't see the missing link as far as the supposed creature that gaps the bridge between monkey and man. And so all of that is the next stage of the whole plan. And it's even been affirmed by individuals like Carolyn Rosalind, who was the secretary and the assistant to Werner von Braun. She was warned very long time ago about the elites and the Illuminati plan to push this as agenda, that they were going to foment this as the next stage of their great and grandiose plan. And she didn't understand it at the time, but even went on video testifying as to being told this, even early on when she first kind of, befriended Werner von Braun, and he kept warning her over and over and over. And now it makes sense, because now we're to the day and age where she sees it being advanced in media with the Ancient Aliens, History Channel shows, all of the movies that are displaying, that the gods of Egypt, different things like that. And so humanity is being bombarded, sense overload of them trying to instill this into our minds, that yes, this is possibility, and that because of the heliocentric worldview, that there's all of these Earths out there, and there's all of these suns, and they all have solar systems and planetary systems around them, and that there's all these different Earths that all essentially evolved life in some fashion or form, and that because they may be thousands or millions of years in advance of us, that they have very advanced life forms, and that they have reached a degree of intelligence which far surpasses us, giving them the technology and the ability to visit our so-called planet from wherever they may be, in whichever galaxy and whichever part of the solar system. And because people accept that as evidentiary truth, they are fully ripe and ready to accept that the ancient aliens are our creators, and that an antichrist, they're open to accepting an antichrist as world leader, which is, it's totally asserted in the Bible, in the scriptures. It's affirmed that indeed there will be this supernatural being that comes and takes over the New World Order as global government, as one world order and one world system. And we see it being played out right before our very eyes.
Right. You're absolutely right. There is so much evidence, and there are so many things that lead into this, that people need to really do their own research and look at this for whatever reason. I mean, if people is listening to this right now and they're saying, "Oh, these people are off the wall," or something like that, well, maybe God's bringing you over here for you to hear it. But I mean, okay, so Zen, you're writing a new book that covers all of this information. Would you mind going into the book and giving us a little bit of information and what you have? I mean, and give the audience a taste and things like that.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm actually writing my 10th book right now. It's called well, I don't have a title as of yet, but it's basically on the firmament as the vaulted dome of the earth, and that it also covers in great detail the Jacob's ladder, the vortex at the north, and how there is a gateway, a portal, which not only leads up to the very throne of God, and that He has established His heavenly temple as well as His throne at the very height, at the very center, at the very top of the firmament, and that the firmament is a solid structure, and also that it leads down into the interior of the earth, into Sheol, or the great abyss, Tartarus, and so there's this place at the northern pole, at the North Pole, as the very center of the earth that is spoken of as being a void, as having, as Job 26 says, that the hell is naked before him, and that um, the earth hangs upon nothing, that it's been established, stretched out over the empty place. And that's not in reference to the earth being suspended as it's held by gravity in orbit around the sun, but that the earth has been inscribed, the circle of the earth has been inscribed, as it says in Proverbs chapter 8, upon the waters of the deep and established on pillars. But at this very northern point, there is a void. There is an empty place. What is also spoken of in Enoch chapter 18, he talks about this same thing. But that there's a what the some of the explorers described as a whirlpool, which all of the waters, because we're on a plain, all of the waters join together at sea level, and there's this a great abyss, this whirlpool at the very center, which surrounds the black lodestone magnetic mountain called Rupes Negra, according to some of the explorers, that encompasses this black lodestone mountain. And this mountain is referenced as Mount Zion or Mount Olympus, Mount Samuru, but that it is this huge, huge, said to be even taller than Mount Everest, the highest mountain in the world, located at the center of the earth, and that this whirlpool encompasses and surrounds it, and it drains all of the waters of all of the oceans into the interior of the earth, in what is referenced as the Great Abyss, the bottomless pit, that it all meets together there, and that this mountain is the reason why all of the compasses point north. No matter where you are on the plane or the circle of the earth, all of the magnetic, the compasses point towards this particular mountain, and that it's that this mountain is also, as I said, surrounded by this whirlpool, but that it diverges into four rivers. And when you look at and study the mythology surrounding the North Pole as like the place, the location for where the Hyperboreans live, or the Atlanteans, that all of the mythology, even Genesis with the description of the Garden of Eden, just diverging, four rivers diverging from the center, that it seems to be that paradise, and that the North Pole was once the cradle of humanity, and that all of the mythologies that unite these mystical places, and references to like Asgard and Shambhala and Thule and different places like that, like Hyperborea, that all of the mythology comes together in the nether regions, in the northern polar regions. And there was even an individual, I believe his name is Warren, can't remember his first name, but back in the late 1800s, he wrote a book called Paradise, and he speaks about the North Pole as being the cradle of humanity. And then in over about 400, 500 pages, he describes all of the mythologies, all of the different fairy tales, fantasy, whatever, the mythology, the oral traditions, which link the North Pole with all of these places. And there was not even long ago, I believe it was in 2006, an individual that wrote an article. He was a Russian professor, and he wrote an article about paradise being located at the North Pole. And then he gives a description of some of the structures that I'm talking about as far as with the magnetic mountain and this great whirlpool that drains into the deep abyss. And he shares it from um, first Jared. He was a map maker. He was the one that had created a lot of the world maps back in the late 1500s. And he sent a letter to John Dee in 1577 where he describes an explorer named Jac- Jacobus Sinoian. And this individual supposedly had um, successfully navigated and traveled to the North Pole several times and was able to return and to share his testimony of what he saw um, with King Edward III. And that there's also a 14th century book called the Inventio Fortunata, which means fortunate discovery, that relates in content the things that I'm also talking about, but from a different explorer's point of view. And the book is actually talking about different explorers that supposedly were able to successfully travel there, witness the same kind of phenomena, and then return and to share. Well, in this case, with the King of Norway, he was able to pass on a book of his writings and describes the same things that we're talking about, and which makes it very interesting as to why, uh, with again with our advanced technology and with aircraft and um, why they won't let you explore either pole, whether the north or the south. We know why they won't let us go down towards the south, and that has to do with, Admiral Byrd's expeditions and the discovery of the firmament where it joins to the Earth, that the actual Antarctic continent is more or less the outer circle. The Antarctic ice wall is the outer circle for where the firmament comes together and joins in union with that of the Earth. And there's actual many passages which give description of that in Scripture. And my book, which it's over 300 pages now, and I was actually very well surprised to find as much information on the firmament as I have been able to locate. But I think a lot of that has to do with I'm very well versed in the study of extra biblical text, and so not only do I bring forth through the Genesis order of creation information which shares what the firmament is, what it is ascribed to being in the canon, but also I've found dozens, many, maybe even 100 quotes that speak about and detail and elaborate upon the firmament in structure, characteristic, its nature, its formation, how it divides and separates the waters above from the waters below, how there's 7 levels of it, and that the windows of heaven are incorporated into these levels, and it was through these windows that Noah's flood, all the waters were allowed to enter into what is the protected cover of the earth. I tie it also together with the war in heaven. So many things that I had no idea that it has connections to. But once I started to write the book and to piece together all of this information, well, there was just so much more that came about in Revelation, and specifically with this vortex in the north, where there's this void that the Jacob's ladder, which leads to the throne of God, and also down into the interior, and how that unites with the eyewitness testimony of individuals like John in Revelation 4 and Revelation 15, where he's brought before the throne of God, and he gives description of him sitting on his throne, but that the throne is sitting on this sea of glass that is as crystal. And that when you understand that it's referencing the top of the firmament, and then those passages come to light and make sense in a way that did not previously, because it's only when you open yourself to uh, embrace of the flat earth as model for world, and you come to understand that the earth is enclosed by this firmament and that it's a solid structure, that you're able to understand that the Most High indeed sits upon the dome firmament, the vaulted dome of the earth, and that he's not having to watch over all these different Earths and all these different solar systems and all of these different planets or suns and different portions of the universe, but that he has established his throne at the very top of the firmament of the earth, and from there he oversees with his angels. He watches over every happening here on our earth, with every person, all of our daily occurrences as far as what we do in every day. He has an angel assigned to each one of us that when the sun sets in that portion of the plane, wherever we live, our angels are tasked with going back up to and telling him, and our actions and behaviors are written down into the books of life. And everything that occurs here with each one of us is told to him and kept up with. And just like it says, even all of our hairs are numbered, and he knows all of the stars of heaven. He knows everything that is going on with each one of us as well. And our relationship with our Creator, our being made in His image, He creating this earth as special home and habitation for all of us, that our relationship is deeply intimate, and that He's not having to focus on all of these other things, but that he is narrowly focused on keeping and directing and guiding our collective fate and humanity towards his prophetic end. And that those things which have been written into the gospel, because he is the author of it, are absolutely 100% accurate and will come true and unfold in the way that has been narrated, biblically written into the narrative of Scripture.
Yeah, you're absolutely right on everything that you're talking about right there. It's really really interesting. Interesting. I was writing some things down as you were speaking, so I'm gonna just touch on some things that you mentioned in the beginning. I watched those videos where they would show like a picture or something of of the Earth from the International Space Station or from some satellite, but like you said, some people are really good at with the Photoshop thing, and they can show a pattern in the clouds and say, how is this possible that every 5 miles the clouds are exactly the same, but whenever we're looking at it on camera or whatever, when we're on the internet, we're not looking for that. We really can't tell. But some people out there, have you ever seen that, to where they can break it down and say, look, these patterns in the clouds are absolutely the same that NASA keeps putting out every 5 miles. They're the same. They're repetitive. Have you ever seen that?
Oh yeah. In fact, my friend Rob Skiba, he did a video where he showed how all of these patterns, these cloud patterns, and he's one of those that is expert at using Photoshop, and he shows that they basically replicated all of these different cloud formations, sometimes using large cloud patterns to create even larger ones, and small ones to create um, you know um, composites of huge and larger cloud formation. But yeah, all of those things, when you really investigate them and examine them closely, they are absolutely the same thing, being basically pasted into the image over and over and over. And he also showed how this Apollo 11, or it was one of the Apollo missions where the individual, the astronaut, is on supposedly on the lunar surface, and you can see the Earth over his right shoulder in the background of the supposed, this lunar shot. And then he takes the photo directly. He made a video of this. Takes the photo directly off of the NASA website, and then pastes it into Photoshop, changes the layers and darkens or lightens it, does something with the contrast, and then you're able to see how there's a box surrounding the Earth, and that it was, whenever it was first created, this image, that somebody had, I know it was before Photoshop, but that they had pasted the image of the Earth into this supposed lunar, photo, and that in itself confirms that the image is a hoax, and that what they were trying to lead the public into believing, that that they had succeeded in making it to the moon, that they had landed there, and that they were doing these spacewalks there, and that the image that was taken, and it's a very famous image, but that it was taken from the moon, and it shows the Earth, in its spherical shape in the background.
Right, right. People just need to think outside the box and use the brain that God gave them. God made us smart. It says it. There was not a man to plow the ground, and He made a man to plow the ground, so He made a smart man. So use your brain, just like little things like who took the first picture of that thing, the shuttle landing or whatever it was on like that. It says landing. Well, who took that picture? Things like that. You just kind of have to understand. Like my kid, she brought home her school book one time, and she goes, "Hey," and this picture looked really old, and she goes, "Look at this picture, Dad. It's a picture of somebody taking a somebody. It's a picture of them building the first camera." And I said, "Well, who took the picture? If they were building the first camera, because it was like this big
Right.
giant thing the size of a car." And I said, "Well, who took that picture?" She went back and asked her teacher, and the teacher was like, "We don't need to know that. We're just trying to learn this stuff." And I was like, "Well, yeah." And she goes, "Dad, you're right. I have to know what they tell me so that I can pass their test, but I just know that I have to relearn it when I get home." And I tell her, "You're absolutely right. Just remember what you need to know to pass the state test in order to, so that you don't fail. But other than that, you don't need to know it." Um,
Right.
right. But there is so much in there. Someone sent me a message and it says, if other planets do exist, why does Satan have to be on this, and why does he have to? Why can't him and the fallen angels just go to another planet? That's another question that people can ask themselves. What is it? It's because they can't. They're here. They're stuck here with the rest of us. If he could, he probably would run with the fallen angels and get out. But they can't. They're here with us. Um, so there's just no other planets that they can go to. So but they want people to believe that there is.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, I can elaborate a little bit on that, because this is
yeah.
how I open my book. With the first few chapters on my book, I'll revisit the first 4 days of the creation week. And the reason that I open with that and share that is because when you look at the order of creation as asserted in Genesis, well, you have in Genesis 1:1 and between Genesis 1:1 and Genesis 1:2 that the earth became without form and void, and that it was then reestablished, reformed, recreated, and then on the second day, from the waters of the deep, and then on the second day, a firmament was put into place, fitted to and put into place above and encapsulating the circle of the earth. Then on day three, you have the earth, the mountains, and the topography as far as the land being separated from the waters of the deep, and then the dry land appears. On the fourth day, you have the heavenly luminaries being created, the sun, the moon, the stars, all the celestial luminaries being created and inserted into the firmament beneath the solid structure of the firmament. And so they're all contained within the firmament. But I talk about specifically that when you utilize the Strongs to look up those words for without form and void, that it describes that the earth became a ruinous heap, and that I told you that I also write about how the firmament is connected to the war in heaven. Well, when you understand that the rebel angels and the war in heaven occurred previous to the reformation and the recreation of the earth, and that the war in heaven is what led to the earth becoming a ruinous heap, well then it makes sense also that in the second book of Enoch, the book of the secrets of Enoch, it describes Lucifer and the fallen angels as being cast out of the heavens on the second day. Well, when you are able to understand that indeed the rebel angels were cast out and banished, exiled here to the earth previous to our being created on the sixth day, then it also makes sense that because of the war in heaven, and because 1/3 of the angels of the Most High joined Lucifer in rebellion in his insurrection against the Father and the Son, and that being banished here to the earth on the second day, in my mind, it makes sense that the firmament was created on the second day and fitted to the earth, and that it is asserted as being made very strong, very rigid, and very sturdy. And it's my opinion that it was done so to keep the fallen angels, the rebel angels, from being able to escape their imprisonment here upon the earth. And so, whether the earth in its previous age, in its previous form, had a firmament, I don't know. But I do know that according to the scripture and to these, when you look at the original Hebrew, that the earth became a ruinous heap, that it was recreated, and that's what we see described in the Genesis account of the order of creation, and that the firmament was then, again, established and put into place above the circle of the earth on the second day. And it's my opinion that it was done so in order to prevent the escape of the rebel angels, and that it also prevents anything from coming in from out there, and that the planets are not billions or millions of light years away, or even these stars, but they're all comfortably within the firmament that was fitted to the earth, and that what is above the firmament is the throne of God, the heavenly temple, paradise, and also those waters which are still in place above the firmament. And so Yeah, I agree with you. They are in prison here, and they have always been here. They're not from somewhere way out there, but that they've been here even before we arrived upon the scene, and that they can escape. Just like when Legion, when they asked Christ, "Have you come to torment us before the time?" They know that there's a time coming where judgment will ensue and the separation of the wicked from the righteous will occur, and that those that are counted with the righteous will inherit New Jerusalem as paradise, and those that are counted with the wicked, that they will be condemned for following Lucifer, following pagan gods, denying Christ, and supporting the New World Order or whatever, involving themselves in sin and wickedness, and not coming to understanding as to the truth of God and accepting Yeshua as Savior Messiah. And so there is a reckoning, and that's really the most important aspect for even the book that I'm writing right now, even though it has to do with the structure and the nature of the world that we live in as an enclosed world system. The most important aspect of all of my work is in reminding people that we do have a creator and that the Father sent his only begotten Son to die on the cross, to incarnate into flesh form as way to redeem us and way to provide and to give and to extend to each one of us opportunity for salvation and eternal inheritance, which includes living with them forevermore. I mean, that's the real message. That's the truth of the gospel that um, is basically, the heart and soul of what the Bible is really about and what people should be trying to share and help others to come to remembrance upon. And even with, the study of um, the flat earth and the firmament, a lot of people say that it has nothing to do with salvation or it has no bearing upon, the true gospel message. It absolutely does, because there have been more people led astray by the Darwinian heliocentric worldview, which asserts that we evolved the monkeys and that there are, that the earth came about as random circumstance and that there's all these other earths out there in the universe that all evolved life in the same way that we see around us. It makes our relationship with the Most High seem distant, and it makes him, not be able to narrowly focus upon us and what's going on here with each one of us and with humanity as a collective. Um, it creates doubt in people's minds as to the intimacy of God's relationship with his creation. And then it also uh, establishes science as religion over that of the Christian Gospels, and the assertion of that we were created in the image of our Maker, and that He created this earth as our special place and as the center of the universal creation, and that what is going on around us and what we see unfolding as life, that this is it. We are the only game in town. There's not thousands of other Earths, thousands of other evolved species out there, millions or however many, NASA and science is trying to assert as being part of the creation. We are it. This is what's going on, and we see it unfolding around us.
You're right, and whenever you put it in that perspective, if people can just sit back and they can look up at the sky, ever since I've been on this and God's been pulling me this way and showing me these things about the whole plane and the dome and the firmament, it's kind of like when I go outside, I look up at the sky and I wave, and I say hi Father. I
Right.
talk to him.
Yes.
I look up and talk to him because I know he's sitting up there and he's looking down and he's smiling. And whenever you put it in that perspective, it you know that you're special. You know that we are here for a reason, and all those other planets do not exist. It is all just a big charade, and he is up there looking down on us. And if Satan and them can get people to believe that space, as they believe it, as they want us to believe it, exists, it's going to deceive a lot of people whenever the time comes. It has everything and absolutely everything to do with your salvation. It's not going to save you, but can help you from being deceived. God says, "My people fail or perish because of their lack of knowledge." You know, um,
Well, yeah, and this this information actually has saved a lot of people that were even militant atheists that did not believe in God, that wanted nothing to do with anything to do any kind of connections to God or any kind of anybody or any belief system that pushed upon them that there was a divine creator. There were a lot of people that once they come to understanding that indeed we are living in an enclosed world system and that we are the focus of creation, well, then it's undeniable that there is a creator. And that because the Bible asserts all of these things and confirms what we're talking about, that the earth is a flat circular plane and that it is covered and capped with this vaulted dome, well, then the author of the Gospels and the scriptures which assert these truths, that he has to be the same person that created our enclosed world system. And so there's no separating one from the other. And so those that wanted to be atheists and that wanted to deny the Christ as the only begotten Son, or as Savior Messiah, or to deny the scriptures as being inspired texts, well, they're having to reevaluate and to reassess their beliefs and their antagonism for these biblical assertions. Why it is that, because it says in the scriptures that the world hates Christ and hates the scriptures, and that they will also hate us. And the reason being is because this world is under the control of Satan, and he has established it that way. He has swayed most of the humans that are born into the matrix and indoctrinated into it. He has swayed us in such a way that we believe we're evolved of monkeys, and that we believe that our planet, our Earth, is one of 9 planets in orbit around the sun, when the sun is even so much smaller than the Earth. And the sun and the moon are in circuit above the face of the Earth. But yet things have been skewed and distorted in such degree that even when you get people, bring up this information to people, they will deny it simply because they have been indoctrinated so hard the other way. And since they were children being born into this, and their families and their parents and their grandparents, all of them were born into the same indoctrination and were raised in believing in the ball earth, and that we live on a globe and that we're spinning. And so it's ludicrous for them to even second guess these assertions as belief, to even look at any information which would be contrary to, um, our acceptance, our having been basically raised believing that we live on a ball. But again, when you look at the real science confirms that the Earth is not moving. And so, if there are, and there's not one single experiment out there which affirms or can show that the Earth is moving in any way, that, supposedly we're spinning at 1,038 miles an hour at the equator, and that we spin, our Earth spins once every 24 hours as it uh, annually moves in orbit around the sun. But the real science confirms that the Earth does not move in any manner, at any speed, at any velocity. And so when you really study the real science that affirms that we're not moving, well, that totally destroys the whole heliocentric, and scientific um, postulation that we are spinning once every 24 hours as we move once every 365 days in complete circle around the sun. The Earth is not moving at all. And so anybody that believes that the Earth is moving and that we're spinning like a top and that we're orbiting around the sun, well, you've got to at least come up with some other belief system other than we are living on a ball, because that is total hogwash. That is total lies and fabrication and deception. And if you don't want to believe in the flat Earth, well, study whatever it is you want and come to some other truth, because the that we're living on a ball is a complete lie, and there is not one single shred or piece of evidence for it, other than we've been raised to believe such.
You're right. And the thing is we haven't even known anything. We haven't even seen it. Um, you know, up into the last what 60, 70 years, because we never had satellites and cameras and things like that, so called up in space, veering back down at the Earth. So all this has been indoctrinated within the last 50 years. Um, and a lot of stuff has happened in that last 50, 60 years too, with technology and the fallen angels and things like that. I mean, just in the early, 1900s, there's an explosion. I mean, look at the population of the Earth. They went from like 1 billion up to 7 billion in like 100 years. I mean, a ton of stuff is happening. I mean, I'm not a scientist or anything like that, but I have tons of questions about, okay, if the Earth is spinning that fast, I understand about if the whole gravity thing. I firmly do not believe in a good gravity concept. I believe in the electromagnetic Earth type system, or whatever you want to call it, only because of whenever you look at the ancients and how they built the pyramids and stuff like that, they talk about how it reverses their positive thing from
Right.
a negative and floats it. But anyways, the thing is um, I can't see gravity, and I always tell people gravity makes no sense to me. I mean, even if there was a space station or what have you up there, and this, that, and the other, that means that they say, well, the reason why you always see it in the same spot, or it doesn't rarely move, is because it's being dragged along with the Earth's gravity. If not, then guess what? The space station has to have some serious jets to make it move along with the Earth at 1,000 miles per hour. But what about just like basic things like stars or anything like that? Why is it that that star will be there if I'm moving so fast? Why is it? I mean, to me, I can't comprehend it. I don't know. Maybe it just doesn't make sense to me. I can lay there. It doesn't. I would think that there would be some more evidence based on if we're spinning, and then we're also spinning around a big giant sun. That, and if you look at the pictures of the sun compared to the Earth, I mean, it looks huge. Like you can fit like a million Earths inside the sun or something like that. But then when you go and look outside, it doesn't look the same as if you were, you know what I mean? As if you're
Oh
looking
yeah,
at it
totally.
in a book. You look like a little the head of a needle when you're next to the sun, according to all of our books and educational tools that they give us to indoctrinate us. So I don't believe none of it at all. Um, I think that what Satan did was basically he thinks that if people believe that God's not truly up there above the firmament looking down directly at them, then it's easier for people to sin if they can't look up and see God. If they don't know that He's sitting right there looking at them, it's easy for people to go and do their sinning based on their temptation that Satan is giving them or and tempting them with.
Right, and also the other side of that is if you can affirm that the Bible is not truthful, meaning that the science contradicts the Bible and the creation account, that the earth is covered by a dome, that the celestial heavenly luminaries were placed into the firmament, and that also that the sun was created on the fourth day. If the earth is somehow in orbit around the sun, how is it that the sun was created on the fourth day, but yet the earth was just um, out there, just suspended and floating through space, dangling, in nothingness? I mean, it doesn't make sense. And so, if you can poke holes into the belief as far as the what the scriptures affirm as truth, well, then you can get people to believe that the scriptures are false, and that also the affirmations that are made within the scriptures are false. That first, that we were created in the image of our Creator. Well, no, you can get people to buy into that. We evolved of monkeys. If you can get them to believe that there's been all these millions and billions of years in evolution, and that 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 God is not even the author of the Gospels, and if He is the all-knowing, all-seeing, and uh, all-encompassing and omnipotent God, how is it that He doesn't even know how the creation unfolded according to science? Why doesn't He know that, what science knows? And so if you can get people to not believe in and to buy into that the scriptures are false, and that they were made up by man, you can sell the story that they were made as a control mechanism to get people to conform to the way that they want them to be controlled, and that to not sin because they believe that they're going to have to at some point pay in judgment, and that they could be condemned to hellfire for breaking the Ten Commandments. And so all of those things are also reliant upon the divinely inspired nature of the Gospels, and also if you can poke holes into any portion, any part of the scriptures, and affirm one aspect of it as being a deception or a lie, well, then that makes people wonder about all the rest of it. And so now that we are showing that indeed the scriptures are truthful according to the order of creation, and also according to the model of world that we live upon, that there aren't all of these millions of Earths out there, and that that the sun is not bigger, is first not the center of our solar system, and that these other planets are not in any way like the Earth, and that the earth does not move, as we said, and that we live in a geocentric, um, geocentric universe, that everything revolves around and is that the earth is the center of all things happening. Just like with Polaris, the stars also affirm this with, the firmament showeth the glory of God. Um, that all of the stars, the time lapse photography shows that all of the stars, all of the celestial luminaries, they all move in circle around Polaris. That Polaris is the fixed star, and it shows the very center of our firmament. And that look, when you look at Polaris, know that God's throne is directly above it, sitting on top of the firmament, right above Polaris. That's where the heavenly temple, that's where New Jerusalem is. And so, understanding these things gives you a whole different understanding of the scriptures.
You're right, absolutely. Just right here in Genesis 1, when you talk about when God made the earth, and then God made the trees and the fruit and the grass, and then He made the sun. So the sun wasn't even made until the fourth day, but the earth and the heavens were made on the first day, and the trees and the fruit and all the grass and all that stuff was made on the third day. So, as a true Christian believer and follower of Christ, a believer, you know, we have to ask ourselves these questions because we believe the Bible is 100% accurate. I mean, I do, and I know that you do, and others do
Yeah.
too. Then how can the trees, because scientists tell us that they need sunlight, you know what I mean, through the whole
Right.
evolution and that process, how did the trees and all this stuff come before the sun on the fourth
Exactly. Yes.
day?
Right.
These are things
Yeah.
that we need to read and understand.
Right. And there's actually rabbinical commentary, where it's affirmed in the commentary that the reason the Most High set it up that way and established it that way was so that it would contradict the later scientific assertions that that all of the herbs and the trees and the plants, that they needed the sun in order to grow. Certainly, with the photosynthesis and a lot of that does take part in their growth and in their being able to grow into trees, and but it wasn't the reason why Earth, the life began here on the Earth, and that was just another one of the things that the Most High wanted to show in presentation in the order of creation, because He knew what would come. He knows the end from the beginning. He knew that Lucifer would try to exalt himself above the stars and the clouds of God, and you know exalt himself and be like the Most High, and stealing and replacing himself, establishing himself as the sun god, and creating the heliocentric worldview, which affirms that the sun is the foremost and preeminent entity, holding 99.86% of the mass of the solar system, that he would create this replacement system, and that the heliocentric worldview is his way of replacing God and being the Most High. And so when you understand the Masons worship the sun god, Lucifer, as the sun god, well, then it makes sense why it is that they worship the sun, and why it is that all of these pagan religions worship the sun, and which affirm that the sun is basically Lucifer.
Wow, that's a lot. That's really deep, and I mean, I can't wait for your new book to come out. I know that Nicole has sent me a message, and she wants to know when your new book comes out as well. And I said, I mean, I don't know if you have a release date or not, or But I mean, there's just it sounds so interesting and full of so much knowledge and information. Um, do
It
you
is.
have
It's absolutely jam packed, full of information, and I just actually today finished writing the content, and so now it's just a matter of revising and proofreading, and which I do that about 7 or 8 times. And so once I have done that whole proofreading reading process and had because I'm waiting on an individual to do the cover, um, and once I insert a lot of images to explain the things that I'm talking about, it should be ready. And so I think probably about 3 months if I go at the pace that I'm going at right now, that I should be able to release it to the public.
right couple months right before the holidays? People can buy them and send them out to their family members and neighbors and get a book club going. You know. Go ahead, Nicole. What were you saying?
And it's just when you wake up to the reality of this world, and you just think of how much it's like everything you question, what's true, what's not. I mean, I think it continuously like blows my mind away of how much, we've been deceived before we woke up. And, I think this stuff is just really interesting. And, I think I've just been learning a lot, and I'm going to continue to just keep researching this stuff. And right now I'm soaking it in, but I mean, it really is. When you wake up, it's completely surprising what you find out is the truth.
It absolutely is. It's mind blowing. It's a totally world paradigm shifting. Like instead of it turning your world upside down, it turns your world flat. I mean, it's all encompassing, and it forces you to realize how grand and to what degree the deception is, and how all encompassing the matrix is, because a lot of the deception we never even question because we're raised into it. Our parents were raised into it. Our grandparents were raised into it. For the last 500 years, they've been able to lead us astray into believing that the Earth moves and that it is in orbit around the sun. And yet, like I said, the science affirms positively through many different experiments, the Michelson-Morley Gale experiment, the Sagnac experiment, Airy's failure, all of these, and these experiments were done in order to um, see at what rate the Earth was moving in orbit around the sun. And they all failed. And that actually became affirmation that the Earth was not moving. And so they were trying to affirm the heliocentric worldview. And actually now these experiments are confirmation as to our geocentricity.
Yeah, and I have a preschooler, and when I think about like raising him, it blows. I mean, that it's just like everything that I ever thought. I always question my parents. I'm like, hey, did you guys know this, or did you ever think about this, or where did the basis from this all come from, and where did it start? It really starts to get the little hamster wheel turning in your brain. But I just
Right.
think, I'm going to be the odd parent out because, with my child, I don't want to raise him in deception. And once this
Yes.
information has come to me, I feel that as a duty as a parent that I have to show my son the truth. And I know it's going to be a lot of controversy in this world, but it's the level that we are at that God has brought us to. And we need to,
Yes.
continue to remember that God is our focus, and this stuff comes to us when it comes to us for a certain reason. So I think these are all just so interesting, and it's just like, how do you? Then I think, okay, how do you incorporate this into the preschooler brain? So, because I know he actually plants a lot of seeds everywhere he goes, whether it's his
Right.
Sunday school class or, with his dad. It's interesting to see where all the seeds get planted. So,
Right. Well, God bless you, and that is so awesome that you're willing to do that for your child. Because, what, in my opinion, what's more important than in standing with and knowing the truth, and in understanding where we are, as people, as individuals, as humans here upon the earth, looking out, because everything, as far as visually, when you look out at the earth and in every direction when you step outside of your house, everything is flat. The horizon is flat in every direction. Whether you have trees or whatever, even with mountains, that there is a sea level and that the earth has is mostly flat. Like they say, Kansas is flat as a pancake. Well, the real science again affirms that the Earth as a plane, as a circular plane, even though we have mountains and we have hills and valleys, and that most of it is flat. And so when even in a plane, when you're up there in the sky and you're looking out into the distance, in every direction, the horizon is flat. And so, I mean, your child will understand these things, will know these things as truth, and it's going to catch on. I mean, yes, most of the people, 99.96% probably, are deceived and do not know the truth, but there is a mass awakening occurring right now in connection to those things that we're talking about. And there are, I mean, this is a topic that is on fire for discussion, even though it is largely avoided by most people, that they're unwilling to look at it. Those that are real truth seekers, that really are looking and investigating into topics such as 9/11 and government sponsored terror and all of these things, they are really opening themselves to the possibility that, yeah, maybe I have been deceived. And when they understand that there's no real photographic evidence or video affirming that the Earth is a globe, and in this day and age when we're so highly supposedly technologically advanced, why is that? And then so that gets them to question, and so they are really truthfully doing the deeper investigation and coming to understand that there is no measurable curvature, that the science for affirming the curvature of the earth, that you can see lighthouses and mountains and valleys and islands and the Statue of Liberty and cityscapes beyond what you are supposed to be able to see according to the scientific formula for asserting measurable curvature. Curvature is non-existent. You cannot find it or affirm that it exists. They might say that it is, and people might say, oh, because I'm using a fisheye lens, yeah, I see the curvature of the earth when I'm in an airplane. But that's all part of the deception. There is no curvature. And the fact that there's a sea level, a worldwide sea level, and that the water, the natural properties of water is to level out, that it will flood, or it will stream out in river or stream until it pulls together where it finds its level. Water is absolutely confirmation, and the nature of water is confirmation that we live on a flat circular plane. You cannot go out there, even though they say we live on a globe. You can't go anywhere and look at any lake and see a hump of water where the supposed river or ocean or lake or sea is curved. It doesn't exist. All water levels out into a flat horizontal line.
Yeah, it's crazy because I think when you start to get into like the mysteries of the Bible and things like that, it's crazy how you realize how something so simple has been twisted to be so complex.
Right.
And those are also true and very good points to bring up about that. And it's true with I mean, I really believe that the outpouring of the Spirit has started, and the wisdom and the knowledge and the understanding has increased so much. And I honestly do not think we have even seen what really is going to be in store when God's going to be doing a mass outpouring of the Spirit. But it's just, I mean, these are conversations that you would not have heard of,
Yes.
several years ago, and now it's just increasing everywhere. It's just so random. I mean, I have people that I didn't think would have any idea of even, the flat Earth phenomenon. They're commenting, they're making these points, and it's like it's great. It's awesome to see the little minds working everywhere. So.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing to be witness to.
It is.
Yes,
It
it
is.
is.
So yeah, you mentioned there's some things that you mentioned, and I got a few messages from people. If I can ask you questions, is that okay?
Yeah, certainly, absolutely.
Okay. The first thing is you're right about the ocean. I mean, the Earth is 75% water according to what we know, and if we are spinning, that there's no way. I don't. Gravity has more effect on more solid. If gravity is real, it would have more of effect on a solid instrument versus a liquid instrument or a gas. So the thing is if it's 75% water, then why is all the Earth? The gravity's just not that strong. Why? You know what I mean? Why is all that water still here? Why is it not splatted against the atmosphere and there's a big hole where the ocean is? It just wouldn't stay. It just would not stay if we were spinning that fast. As a matter of fact, I think I've seen one video where it spins so fast it would squish down to the equator where that is, and it would all spin off that way, just like if you had a
Right.
ball, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly. Yeah.
and that's the way it would come out. Um, let's see. One of the guests, a guest that we had on before, her name is April. She sent a question and asked if you seen the pyramid was in the Arctic. If you seen that pyramid that they had found on Google Earth, and it's
I
pretty
have, and actually, I came on with the hijacker several years ago and talked about how they would find structures in the in the Arctic region, in the Antarctic regions, because I had a dream about it, and the
oh
Most High
wow.
showed me that there were structures down there, and so yeah, I know about those things, and talked about it a way long time ago, and also in my dream I was shown that these structures were not necessarily empty; that some of them were still peopled by demonic forces. Like how we have the Hitler and his people going down there after World War II and establishing New Schwabenland. And
Right.
so, those kind of things that is supposedly there's other stories that talk about some the special forces, the American and also British special forces that discovered portions of these Nazi bases and that they had been built into previous structures that were already, like how Phil Schneider, he talks about how these deep underground bases that they were built onto already existing structures,
Right.
alien, demonic deep underground bases that were already in place, and even the Emerald Tablets of Thoth talk about that they had created these underground bases that the fallen ones had been involved in doing some of these things at a previous in a previous age. And so yeah, there's a lot of that kind of stuff and that we haven't even discovered, so much that I think it probably even outnumbers what we see on the surface.
Right, right. I read an article. It said in 2002, some scientists actually found a city in the Arctic, I believe, and now the scientists are missing, and they filmed it, and they sent some Navy SEALs or something up there to go get them, and the only thing they found was their video camera or something, and they showed some pretty good evidence of the trip, but yet these scientists they're missing. They're from some university. They went to look, but they said they found some cities or something under the Arctic, and I'm wondering what exactly happened to them. So I mean that's even just more evidence, just little things that people need to be aware of. I believe that the National Choir, that paper is probably more accurate than, or is more accurate, I should say, than any mainstream news article that a person could read or be brainwashed with.
Well, it all depends on the story because, they're also putting disinformation out there just to keep down the credibility, but they do also, and also to generate, people's interest, but they create fake stories, but they also release, truthful, very much truthful stories, and that other news sources and controlled corporate media sites will not touch. And so, yeah, there's the internet's been such a blessing to our generation, and I believe that we are the last generation, the fig tree generation, and that what Nicole was talking about, that we are seeing the outpouring of the Spirit, and that so many things, so many revelations are coming to light, so much truth being poured out on each one of us. Just like with my last book, The Flat Earth as Key to Decrypt the Book of Enoch, it's only by applying knowledge that the Earth is a flat circular plane that I was then able to show that the book on the courses of the heavenly luminaries, which is a portion of the book of Enoch, which is like 14 chapters, that the reason we can't make sense and haven't been able to make sense of those 14 chapters of that text is because we're trying to apply the motions that Enoch gives to description of the movement of the sun and the moon to our heliocentric worldview. And it's only by applying those motions as if you were looking down on the circle of the earth as a clock face, and the circuits, because Enoch describes the sun and the moon moving from the east to the west and then north and back to the east. Well, when you understand that that is basically a description of a circle in revolution, and you apply those motions to the circle of the earth, well, I show in my book that then you are able to understand everything that he talks about. And the reason that he's describing the motions of the sun and the moon is the same reason that Joshua was given the authority to stop the motions of the sun and the moon in order to prevent the day from ending. It's because the earth doesn't move. And it is, in fact, the sun and the moon which are in motion and moving in circle above it. And so, it's only, for the last 500 years, nobody's been able to unlock that portion of the book of Enoch. And yet, because I opened myself to the study of the flat earth, embraced it, and then revisited those texts, because I do study all the extra biblical texts, have done so for 20 years now, but that was a portion of the book of Enoch that I never could understand. But after I know now that that the earth is not a planet which moves in orbit, it's not spinning and not in orbit around the sun, then I was able to unlock what Enoch describes in all those chapters. And my last book has all of those chapters incorporated into it. I don't know if you've read it or not, but I explain and unlock all of those verses in all of those chapters of the Book of Enoch that we haven't been able to understand for the last 500 years. And so there's a lot of truth, a lot of revelation coming to light now, which is just absolutely mind blowing when you consider the profundity of it and how really personal it is to each one of us. Because, like I said, not only do I want to know the truth, but I do want to understand how the universe works. I want to understand, that it is the sun and the moon which are in movement above us, and that the celestial luminaries are in moving around Polaris as the fixed star of our celestial night, and that the Earth doesn't move, and that the sun moves from east to west, but then moves to the north and back to the east. It's moving in a circle, and that where its light shines down, day is created, and where the termination line is, that's where night begins. And so all of those things are just fascinating, and to understand the truth of that is, to me, just absolutely humbling.
You're right. I can't wait for your new book to come out because then after I read it, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna read the Book of Enoch and be able to understand it more because it is confusing when you read it because you can't. Or for me personally, I was not able to understand the concept whenever he was talking about the planets and their orbit, the sun, the moon, and the earth in orbit, and things like that, and all the storehouses. And I'm thinking, I'm just reading it, and it makes it kind of sound like he's like a little bit of a fairy tale. But now that but you have to be able to believe this because you believe in God, you believe in Yeshua, you believe that he came and he died and he rose again for our rose again, he died for our sins. So you have to believe all this stuff, but you just can't put it into perspective. But once all these keys are coming forth and unlocking the mysteries, and you're bringing them forth, this is great for people to understand this and be able to say, okay, this doesn't sound like a fairy tale any longer. Now it's even making more sense. And for you to be able to do that for people, it's just great. It's just a blessing, and from God for all of us. It's just awesome. We really appreciate it.
Well, it's my honor, and it's not just me. Anyone that applies themselves to the study of Scripture in the way that I do would have these same kind of revelations come forth for them, because the Most High is seeking people to seek out His truth. It's the glory of God to hide a matter, but the glory of kings to seek it out. And so it's my belief that any one of us, if we apply ourselves to knocking and seeking and having the hunger to want to know, that the Most High is going to lead, and He's going to lead all of us in some way to these incredible revelations. And so I consider it a great honor to be a servant to God in the way that He is utilizing me, and it's mind-blowing the things that He's shown me through, basically the life of all the books that I've written on the biblical secrets that are contained within the gospel, and the revelation as far as all of that and unlocking the Book of Enoch, that to me also confirms the veracity and the divinely inspired nature of the Book of Enoch, for it to have encoded into its text the truth of our enclosed world system, and the truth that we live on a flat circular plane, that we are covered by a dome, and that the heavenly luminaries move in circuit above it. That is the real truth of where we are and where we live. And so the fact that people have doubted the Book of Enoch because they couldn't understand it, but now that the key is out there, because I released that book on decrypting the Book of Enoch in September 2015, people can read it and go and understand it for themselves and understand that, yes, the Book of Enoch absolutely is divinely inspired, and that it, like the Bible, is the Word of God. and that you can bank on what it says, and that because these things were encoded within it, the rest of the prophecies that are encoded in it, because there are a number of them, are also 100% accurate and will be fulfilled just like the prophecies in the regular canon of the gospel.
Amen. Amen to that. Zen, would you like to give out your contact information where people could get your books again before we wrap up the show this evening?
Yeah, sure. My author website is zengarcia.com. My personal webpage that I'm the webmaster for is fallenangels.tv, www.fallenangels.tv. You can contact me on Facebook, or you can email me through my zengarcia.com. My email is zengarcia2010@gmail.com. Those of you that are interested in any of my books, I autograph them for free. Just contact me directly. And if you buy more than one, I will bundle them at discount as well. Also, if you want to at any time, give them out as presents or gifts, I'll be glad to personalize them for your family member or your loved one or your friend or just an acquaintance, whoever, that, I'll autograph them a personalized message for them. And you can, I've got nine books out currently. 2 of them are sold out and not available, but my 3rd book is A Different Way of Being. My 4th one, Lucifer, Father of Cain. My 5th one, Awaken to the New World Order. My 6th one, Sons of God, Who We Are and Why We're Here. My 7th, Skyfall, Angels of Destiny. It's about pre-election, pre-existence, and the predestinated spirit. And my 8th one, the Aramaic Targums and the Palestinian Targums. And my 9th book, The Flat Earth as Key to Decrypt the Book of Enoch. And this one will be something along the lines of the firmament, the vaulted dome of the earth, something of that nature.
Wow. Yeah. You are just a wealth of knowledge, and we greatly appreciate you coming on. And we hope that you will find time in your busy schedule. We know you're super busy, but anytime you want to come on, anytime, just let us know. We'll be more than happy to make room for you to come on to the show and just treat the listeners with everything that you have. We really, really greatly appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate it as well, because the things that I teach and the things that I cite in my work are very controversial, and so a lot of people are afraid to have association with me because of the work that I do. They don't believe in this or don't believe in that, and so they don't want to be affiliated with me because of that. And so because of that, they are, they don't get open to the truths that I teach. But everything I bring forth and bring to light is absolutely biblical. It's scriptural. I share in every one of my books hundreds of source references where you can go and verify and study all of those things, their own books in their own context, and confirm the things that I've learned and share as revelation for yourself.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's definitely, this is an honor for us that you have come on. So we are always thrilled to be affiliated with you and welcoming you on. So I know that a lot of the hard truth is out there. It's whether people want to take it or leave it, but at least we are presenting it, and then they can make that choice themselves.
Right. Yeah, and I appreciate that very much. So both of you, and I'll come on again soon.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome.
Well, thanks again for coming on, Zen. We appreciate it. Have a good night.
You too. God bless y'all.
God bless you.
Thank you.
Again.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Nicole.
Hello.
Hello. Well,
You
That
got
was
quiet there.
I did. Well, that's because I accidentally hit mute. But you know what? This has been such a well. There's like different buttons. There's so much information. I'm going to order this book. The what is it? I was looking at it. It was actually on Amazon. The one that he just wrote, and it was released in, what did he say? May, I think it was.
Are you talking about the
But
one
it's
from
called,
September of 2015?
yeah, it says the flat Earth is the key to decrypt the Book of Enoch. I'm
The
definitely
Enoch,
going to be
yeah.
ordering. Yeah, I'm going to be ordering this one. I read the other one, Sons of God and Lucifer, Father Cain, both great books, wealth of knowledge. People really need to be able to get these books, and they really need to read them and understand them. And a lot of people aren't open to it, but at the same time, if you're not open to it, guess what? A little knowledge is not going to hurt you to be able to understand this. Read it, pray for discernment, ask God to show you what is right and what is wrong, and He will lead you to where He wants you to be and give you what He wants you to know. Because if you don't, there's too many unanswered questions for a person not to be seeking answers. You know what
Mhm.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you choose to stay ignorant or choose to stay oblivious to these things, you're not going to be able to give an answer or an account for your walk with God. I know whenever I first woke up, it was scary, but I kept moving forward. I know when you first woke up, you were calling me like, right, 24/7,
Yeah.
and because there's so much that God you open up to God, He will just open your heart up for the floodgates and just pour in as much as you can take. But He's not going to give you more than what you cannot take, you know?
No, and this is my thing is like God has revealed things to me that has made confirmation for the things that Zen has researched. So it's just, you know what, I feel so blessed that God's revealed those things, and it's just like if you have one foot in this world and the other with God, you're an enemy with God, and people can it really like comes to my mind more like the lukewarm Christians is if this is going to interfere with what they want to do or going to go see the next new movie or hanging out with their friends or doing whatever, this is the stuff that matters because we're going to be standing before God, and He's going to say, do you remember these times that I gave you these opportunities? What did you do with them? So I think that's just kind of that's what we need to do is really look, because when you are seeking and when you are knocking, those opportunities are there. What do we do with them is up to us, and we're going to have
Right.
to answer for that one day.
Right, and don't look at it as, oh, it's just a coincidence or anything like that. Look at it as, okay, this is not a coincidence. God is talking to me. Talk to Him back. Okay, God, I see what you're trying to show me. Show me more. Don't look at it
Mhm.
as or blow it off, because if you blow it off, what that does is the Bible talks about this, and we only have a few minutes left. It hardens your heart to be able to hear the things that God wants you to be able to hear. See, God gave us our emotions, and we hear with our emotions. We smile, we laugh. You know what I mean? We cry,
Mhm.
we feel joy, things like that. Those are things that God gave us, not only for us to be able to hear with our ears or see with our eyes. He gave us the ability to feel, and we can actually feel what we hear, if that makes sense to people. It's kind of like, that's
Yeah.
why when people are blind, or that's why when people are deaf and they can't hear, it's God. They can still feel the presence of God. They can still hear Him. You know what I mean? So we
Mhm.
don't need that. God gave us all of these emotions and senses, and we are to use them all to connect with Him. You know.
Yeah.
So just
Amen to that.
don't look at those little chills that people get. Yeah, that's from God. Use
Yeah.
say, okay, God, I hear you, and when you say I hear you, that means I feel you. I feel you, God. You know what I'm saying? So yeah,
Word.
right. Yep. Okay, so listen, I'm gonna play a song. We're gonna call it a night. Is that cool?
All
Because
right.
we're basically out of time. All right. You have a good night.
Yeah. You too. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.